Okay, hello everyone. Today we are here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 in the Cessna 152. We have a 58 nautical mile flight from Oscar Romeo Sierra Orcas Island to Papa Alpha Echo Paine Field. We'll be hand flying this entire flight. The C152 doesn't have a GPS, but don't let the lack of a GPS worry you. The C152 has everything you need with 2 CDIs and an ADF, so we'll be using visual navigation, VOR navigation, and NDB navigation. Alright, let's get started. We've got both of our airports here, so we're going to zoom in and add the non-directional beacon that's located at Skagit Bay. So you have to click on that and do add, make sure you turn it on in your filters, and then we'll go to the navlog and check out our profile. For some reason, the navlog defaults to some really odd flight levels for VFR flights, so we're going to adjust that to 5500 for this flight. And we're all set. So we're here at Orcas Island by Orbx Simulations. I featured this in my last video. If you have previously purchased this for X-Plane or another simulator, it is at a discount from Orbx, so be sure to pick it up. We'll start with our checklist. C152 just has a very basic checklist compared to some of the aircraft like the C172. I am using the evaluation feature here. I do like it. It makes you do it, but it verbally walks you through it and adjusts the camera, so that's handy.
Bridge. Carburetor heat. Cold in. Prime.
Get it primed.
As required. Throttle. Open 1/2 inch. Master switch.
Everything on.
Ignition.
And ignition.
Start. Throttle. Adjust for 1000 RPM or less. Oil pressure.
So I noticed this has you turn on the beacon after you start the ignition. Personally, I would turn on the beacon before you start the ignition because the beacon's a warning to everybody around you that you're getting ready to start. Okay, while we're getting our comms set up, let's do our pre-flight. So we are departing from KORS Orcas Island, and we're going to fly following the NDB to Skagit Regional Airport. It has an NDB right at the airport. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we're going to intersect the VOR from Paine Field and fly that along heading 155, which will take us directly to Paine Field. We have Watcom VOR near us, and we'll dial that in as a backup in the event that we have reception problems with Paine Field's VOR. We will be flying over open water for a portion of this trip, so we're going to pick up flight following as soon as we get to altitude. This way ATC will know where we are and can help us if we run into any issues. We're going to wear our life vests for the open water portion, and there's a waterproof bag right at your feet that has things like an emergency radio that we'll grab in the event that we should need to ditch. Alright, let's get our ADF connected to Skagit Bay's non-directional beacon. ADFs work a little bit like an old spy gizmo, where an arrow points you in the direction of a bug that's been planted someplace. So there's the arrow. Once we get to altitude, there's a little stick figure of our airplane, and the arrow will point in the direction of the beacon. So when the arrow is pointing straight ahead, you are flying directly towards the beacon. We have CDI-2 connected to Paine Field, so we'll dial in the radial we want to fly, which is 155. Looks good. CDI-1 is dialed into Watcom, so we'll adjust it to 147 from Watcom. It's important to get your froms and twos correct when setting up VORs. Okay, we will make our CTAF call. I do notice that the CTAF frequency here in the game is 122.9, while the published frequency for Orcas Island is 128.025. So a little surprising, this is a pay-ware airport, so I was hoping they'd have the frequencies all sorted out. I did notice in Tacoma Narrows, which is also by Orbx, that the taxiways still weren't labeled correctly. So bugs that'll be worked out, I'm sure, as we get further along in Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can tell I've been flying the Piper Cub a lot because I'm looking under the seat here for the release brake, and that's not where it's located on the C152. It's near the prime. There it is.
Oscar Romeo Sierra traffic Cessna November 359er Golf Charlie taking off runway 34 east departure.
I've noticed that the rudder is really super sensitive on the C152 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've dialed down the sensitivity quite a bit. Here it's fine as I go down the runway, but when I land sometimes, or even just lining up on the runway, it drives a little bit more like a Mario Kart than a Cessna. So I don't know, I'll play around with my sensitivity settings until I get it all squared away. You can see me veering a little bit here. Fighting with the rudder, especially as you start to get near takeoff speed and you lose a bit of authority from the wheels lifting off a bit from the runway. I think that's correct behavior, but it's a bit exaggerated, I think. And nobody comes close to how well they do water in Microsoft Flight Simulator. That is beautiful. Okay, we've turned to our initial heading, and I can see that we've got our ADF centered, so that's great. That means we are flying in a straight line directly toward Skagit Bay. So if we hold this heading and check that periodically, we'll be right on course. Perfect. Okay, for flight following, it's just giving us options to contact Victoria Approach. We are not actually in Victoria Approach's airspace and we're heading away from them, so I would probably just contact center. To find center frequencies, you get them from the IFR low maps, and they are the little postage stamp-shaped frequencies for each area. There's one for Vancouver and one for Seattle Beacon Hill. Looks like we're all set up, so let's kick back and enjoy that scenery.
3221 Cessna 9er Golf Charlie.
We get mixture to cutoff. Alright, how much fun was that? So it was all hand flying, no GPS, just traditional navigation using VORs and NDBs. At first they were a bit intimidating for me, but then once you learn them I think they're very straightforward. If you like content like this, be sure to leave a comment, and also don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So as always, thanks a lot for flying along with me, and stay tuned for further flight adventures.